If you've been thinking about a book in your future and you are a new-ish or soon-to-be author on its way, and you're wondering, how can I build a memorable author brand? How can I make sure that I get the key ingredients to attract a loyal community of readers who are excited about my book that's coming out and my writing currently? Well, before we even talk about building the brand of the book or writing the book, I want you to take a step up. I call it like an eagle view up. And think about first, we need to really think about who you are as an author and what your personal brand identity is that makes you interested in this work, that will help you do the rigor and the joy that comes from writing about your chosen expertise and topic. And also, what are the things that make the reader want to come along with you on this journey even way before your book publishes? And so I want to talk about that part today. And it's a section from our Thought Leader Success Stack, which is part of our Thought Leadership Collective. I have a framework called the Personal Brand Identity Framework. And there are three core pillars of the Personal Brand Identity Framework that I want you to be thinking about as the first part of building your author brand. Now, to build an author brand, as I said, there are three pillars, and those pillars are values, positioning, and impact. And I want to talk about each pillar in a high-level way so you can get a gist of what you can be thinking about as you're developing who you are, how you want to be seen, heard, and paid for your writing, your speaking, and your thought leadership. So let's talk about values first. And values are all about how you make decisions and how you enroll other people into the way that you look and see the world. Because thought leadership is about helping people think differently and then doing something more. Let's talk about values. There are three pieces of being values driven or making decisions with your values. And the first is, what is your vision? That is the future state that your work helps people see themselves in. That's the vision. So an author brand is about, yes, writing what you know, writing about your expertise, telling your stories, etc. But it's also about meeting the reader where they are in the vision that you have for the world and where they see themselves in it. So vision is first. It's the future that you see happening as a result of people understanding and taking action on your work. The second piece is your voids. Voids are what is the gap or what's missing that you currently perceive as an author, as a leader, as an innovator, as an entrepreneur, as a professional, whatever role or identity that you have in terms of your vocational work. What is the gap? That's what voids are. What is the gap that this thinking, this values-driven thinking that you have is meeting a moment that readers need to understand? So when we think about voids, it could be, let's say for me, I created the Thought Leadership Collective because I felt that there were too many authors and underrepresented voices that were not available on bookshelves because it was competing with people trying to build their business and their brand at the same time and not realizing that they could use a book to leverage all of that within 3 years' time or less. Now, so that gap, that void was very, very close to my personal identity because growing up, I loved books. I lived in the library. I wanted to be an author when I grew up. I thought I was going to be a fiction author, like write fantasy. And maybe that would have been a different or better profession for me. Who knows? All I can say is that I knew at a very young age that I can never get enough of books. And if you're listening to me, you probably love books too. In fact, you probably hoard books. So a void is something that you personally, let's say you are somebody who teaches people about YouTube, how to actually get your personal brand out on YouTube, then you have to think about what are the gaps or the voids in your life and your clients' lives or your audience's lives that you want to help them see so that they can win in the future. And then the third part of values is violations. And violations are the things that are what I call the enemy of your brand. They are the things that have gotten in the way or are getting in the way of your ideas changing the world. A violation can come in the form of, let's say for me, I used to be in the corporate world. And up until 2006, I was a very successful, rapidly ascending go-to-market marketing executive in big companies. And in 2006, I was passed up for a promotion that I had worked really hard for. And that's an example of a violation that happened to me that made me realize that I didn't have full autonomy over my future. And autonomy is one of my highest values. And so I realized in order to be in alignment with my values and to make a clean decision, I had to take a chance on myself and at least try to do my own thing. And that's what happened. And that's how Thought Leadership Collective is now here since, 2006, because I had a violation and I had a vision for my own life. And partly in that story, I can enroll other people and readers into my own work. And I talked about that story actually in my book, Unicorn Team. So now let's talk about the second part of personal brand identity, and it's called positioning. So the three parts about positioning are mission, characters, and quest. Some of you have probably heard of the hero's journey, and that's a great framework and model to think about in a storytelling arc. But what I'm talking about here is about you and your author brand. So before you can write the hero's journey, you have to get very clear on what is your quest. So your quest is the big journey that you're on that you want others to come with you. Now, this is different from mission, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. But a quest is you naming, this is the thing that we are seeking to change. So in my case, when I talk about Thought Leadership Collective or TLC, our quest is to help unrepresented voices to be the human guides and the new modern philosophers of the next level of thinking. That's our quest together in TLC, and to build a community of thought leaders that are building impressionable, impressive brands and creating different profit models through their business and or their professional career through the world of being a serious, committed author. That's our quest. The next are the characters. How do you position yourself amongst the other unicorns and stakeholders in the ecosystem that you want to live in? And what I mean by that is, for me, I'm in the world of personal brand, strategy, leadership, authorship, go-to-market. That's the world that I live in. So inside of the world, there are all these characters that are in that world, including me, my team, my audience, my clients, publishers, lit agents, speaking bureaus, the media. In looking at my positioning, I have to ask myself, where do I stand, my personal brand, in that ecosystem of my world? And who are the aligned characters in the story that I need to create relationships with? And so that's what characters are. And then finally, in the positioning pillar is your mission. Now, as I said, your mission is different than your quest. Your mission is the actual specific metric that you are looking to achieve on your quest. So for example, in TLC, in the next 5 years, we would like to help 1,000 underrepresented voices get a book to market and build a profitable business model and an impressive personal brand. And so that's our mission. And that's how we'll know that it satisfies that the quest we're on is successful, or it's on its way to being successful. Okay. So in your positioning, and as you think about your positioning, these are the three core categories you need to be thinking about as you develop your personal brand identity. And then finally, there's impact. And most of us, would you agree, are looking to make impact. We want to make sure that when we take our last sleep in this meat sack that holds our soul, that we have made a difference, right? So what are the three components of impact? Well, they're part of how you deliver your values and your positioning. So that is through your content, your sphere, and your platform. Content, that's a pretty obvious one, right? That is the actual writing, speaking, ideas that you publish through various forms, right? It could be analog, it could be digital, it could be on various platforms, but it's the actual content that supports your quest and that the characters on your mission would be interested in learning about, reading, and communicating with or engaging with, okay? Sphere is your area of influence. So the characters, the people in the story, right? But the sphere is your level of influence in that industry. So ways that you can increase your sphere of influence is, again, creating relationships with media, looking at who you want to be in what I call a brand halo with. So brand halo is basically somebody who or another brand, personal product or whatever that you want to be in association with. And I would really, one little tip to be thinking about is how can your personal brand be in a sphere with more established brands? Like, and not just personal brands, but as I said, like company brands. Like, let's say you are a personal finance expert and your sphere is your sphere of influence around like banks and private equity firms and mortgage companies. These are all like spheres of influence you want to be looking outside of your own personal identity to align with. And then finally, your platform. And your platform really means where can you be found and where do you have the most omnipresence? And the truth is, if you want to build a great personal brand, you shouldn't be trying to be on all the things, okay? In fact, my highest recommendation, if you're looking to build an author brand specifically, there's only two platforms that matter the most. This is, of course, if you're writing nonfiction, prescriptive books, or even memoirs. And that is LinkedIn and right here on YouTube. Those are the two long-standing platforms you can trust that you're going to get great readership, great viewership, and be able to talk about your work in a variety of ways. And there's built-in search into those two platforms. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against the other platforms, but when I think about the two that author brands, if they focused more on, and the people in, frankly, TLC focused on, it would be amazing what we'd be able to achieve together. And I don't want to forget Substack. Substack is also a really important platform for author brands right now at the time of this recording, and I don't expect it to go away anywhere soon. So those are the three pillars of building a personal brand identity: values, positioning, and impact. And you're probably wondering, well, okay, Jen, how do I actually build those things? This sounds intriguing. This sounds fun. This sounds like something I should be doing, and I didn't realize I should be doing it. Well, the good news is I got something for you. This is exactly what I teach and what I mentor on and advise inside of our Thought Leadership Collective. We are a strategic network and education platform that helps authors like you or authors on your way create undeniable brands that change the world and shape the future with your body of work. And if that sounds really juicy to you, and I hope it does, and you'd like personal guidance on how to do that, I invite you to join us live as we build this together. And if you want to be notified of our next open house where I can tell you all about it, get on our Brandcast email list. The link is in our description below.